Hello, hello. Welcome to the new moon in Capricorn. I just wanted to get on here and record this video in a pretty laid back way. I just want you guys to come hang out with me on this new moon and let's geek out about it and talk about it and get deep about it and all the things that I feel like I can't do through writing. Plus, I mean, I feel like we just live in a day and age where not a lot of people read anymore. And all of this will make sense. Like as I'm, digging down to my elbows in this Capricorn energy, I am realizing the greater spiritual message of it all over again as I seem to every year since I began this work in the archetypes. And it's just reminding me to be a bit innovative in the ways in which I reach others and I reach people and I spread my message and I spread my light. And maybe it's not always through writing, and maybe I will record more videos, or maybe I won't. I don't know. I don't know yet, but I am trial and erroring it still, right? So let me know, do you like these check-ins via video? Because if you do, maybe if this is helpful, if this resonates, then maybe I will start doing this. Maybe, I don't know, to start maybe every new moon or maybe every new moon, full moon. I don't know, but I do know that I fucking love working with the moons. And I know how much working with the moon phases has totally changed my life. And I know how much it could change your life as well. So maybe doing check-ins this way is a good idea, along with like the tarot spread and everything that I already do, of course. But anyway, enough rambling. Let's get into it. So, first of all, Capricorn is an earth sign. Capricorn is a cardinal sign. Capricorn starts the quarter of winter. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Capricorn's symbol is the mountain goat or the sea goat, or even the unicorn, which we'll get into. And Capricorn rules the 10th house of the zodiac wheel. Capricorn in traditional astrology is known as the CEO of the zodiac. Why? Because it rules hierarchies, it rules business, it is about ambition, about climbing that mountain, it's about initiative, it's unwavering focus and putting dreams into action and practical and grounded and all of those earth elements as well as it climbs this mountain. What is this mountain? Well, that depends. That depends on what your ambitions are. Simply enough, what are your ambitions? Because it all starts with an ambition, or with initiation, right? Because I want to use initiation on the more spiritual side. It's a call to action, and that's the bottom of the mountain, right? And once you have that figured out, then you start to climb this mountain, and climbing that mountain is the journey of Capricorn. Capricorn is a problem solver, because as it climbs that mountain, it is cautiously taking each step at a time and problem solving how to get to that next step, because it wants to reach the top of the mountain because of this ambition at the bottom of the mountain. It's kind of like that foresight as well, of like seeing these long-term goals. And that's also why we get the Gregorian calendar New Year in the sign of Capricorn, even though it's not technically the new year in astrology terms, or even actually in human design, in the human design world as well. It's closer, but not quite. Anyway, so like it's because we're setting these intentions, which setting intentions is great and fine around this time, but it is more long-term stuff. Okay, so like when Aries comes around, that's like a real seed new start intention. Capricorn is in winter, so it's like we're kind of like finishing up a cycle, but as we're finishing up that cycle, we're taking a break, we're stopping at this mountain, wherever we're at on this mountain, we're kind of like looking back and looking forward at the same time, and we're thinking, okay, what are our long-term goals, and how do I break that down into steps? Like, can I still see this long-term goal clearly? And if I can, am I where I need to be? What needs to shift? You know, where and this is where it gets deep. Am I even on the right mountain? Like, maybe I'm halfway up this mountain and realize this ain't my fucking mountain. You know, like, I need to go down and find a new mountain to climb. So it can feel like a new intention in that way. And that is what we want to do with the new moon, is we want to set a new intention. So the new intention is to look at our long-term vision and evaluate where we are in the present moment, and work with the earth elements to get ourselves back on track with where we're wanting to go in the long term. Now, here's the thing too, is that not everyone is going to be as specific or non-specific about what the top of this mountain looks like exactly. You know, like, this is why I fucking love doing this work with astrology and human design so much, is because everyone is so uniquely different. Some people will see the top of that mountain very clearly, and they will have it down to all the details, you know, of what they're going to get to. And other people, it's more just like a vibe or a feeling. So it's different for everyone. But no matter what it is, or what your ambition is, Capricorn's really having you look at the top of that mountain and comparing that to where you are now. Capricorn also rules, so it's like, it's all hierarchies, right? And so we could even think of that as the hierarchy of our lifespan, of the time allotted. And that's when we get into the 10th house themes of like purpose and career and legacy and reputation, what we're going to be known as, what we're going to leave behind here for Earth when we're gone from this earthly plane. You know, like, what kind of impact are we making in this life? And this particular new moon is also in the root chakra. And so there is like this pressure, you know, there's this pressure to be like, I have to do something like purposeful with my time here. And am I on track with that? So, you know, when we also think about Saturn and the cycles of Saturn returns, like, you know, you have your first Saturn return around the age of 30, and then you get your second Saturn return around the age of 60. And same thing, right? Like, this is kind of those moments in your life where you're taking a stop and you're going like, wait a second, like, life is short, you know, time is speeding up, life is short. Am I on the right track? You know, am I going to regret my life? Am I going to fall stagnant and lose my way? Am I going to get stuck in the middle of this mountain and never reach the top? The first Saturn return is more like a wake-up call of like, oh shit, I'm really an adult, you know? It's kind of like that awakening to your responsibilities, like when you really just grow the fuck up. As to where your second Saturn return is more like, you've learned a lot, you've done a lot, now what the fuck are you doing with it? You know, what kind of impact are you making with your life? That's when the pressure gets real, actually, is around that time, because that's when you really start to get real about the passage of time. So yeah, goal setting, right? And also it's about having a lot of love and compassion with yourself as you climb this mountain and step into some of these pitfalls and obstacles, because take it from a Capricorn stellium lady, I've learned throughout life, and especially after my first Saturn return, that beating yourself up and shaming yourself and putting unnecessary pressure on yourself only fucking slows you down more. It only keeps you more stuck. Like all the things that you think beating yourself up is going to help with, it actually hurts. Like, you think like, oh, I just got to be better. I just got to be more ambitious. I just got to work ambitious. I just got to work harder. Like you start thinking all those thoughts in your head, and it's like a shame cycle. It's like, I don't work hard enough. I'm not ambitious enough. Like my goals aren't worthy of anything. Like, you start like all these limiting beliefs and stuff in the shame cycle, and it actually does keep you stuck. It does. Which brings me to my next point. Capricorn also rules the devil card in tarot. And one thing you'll notice about the devil card in traditional Rider-Waite tarot is that these guys are bound to the devil in these chains, but look at how loose those chains are. Like they can just pull those chains off their head and be free, but they choose to stay there and stay shackled to the devil. I think, like, I don't know, you guys can argue with me if you know something different, but the way that I take this is that it starts at the bottom of the mountain again. Like, what is your mountain? If your mountain is like purely coming from, like, if you're really living up to that CEO mentality and all you care about is just like making more money, being super successful, being super powerful, having like being greedy and having a lot of love and a lot of money and a lot of fame and like all of that, if that's all you care about, you're keeping yourself shackled to the devil, and that will grow and manifest in ugly ways, which is what we are seeing in a collective sense with this Pluto through Capricorn phase that we've been in since 2008. We started that off with a housing market crash, with hierarchical structures falling, crashing. And it's been a process of that ever since. I think we can all agree, right? Like since 2008, it has been a process of these structures, these mountains, societal mountains, just it's kind of like the Tower card in a sense too, right? Like if it's not built on stable ground, then it's not stable and it's just going to crumble and fall away. I like to think of the Devil card that way. Also, there's like this addictive quality to it. Like it says, like this guy's like, my tail's on fire, and this guy's like, should we get going then? Then this guy's like, nah, just pass the chocolate. Like that's the thing about Capricorn too, is that pressure of the top of the mountain can sometimes be so immense that we want to escape it, and we delude ourselves into escaping it so we don't have to deal with the pressure of the fact that one day we're gonna fucking die. And what are we doing? Our tail is on fire. We should probably get going, like light a fire up under your ass. That's the vibe that I get from that. So now when we talk about the bottom of this mountain, I want to talk about two things. So you know how much I love esoteric astrology. The reason why is because everything that I've talked about so far is traditional astrology. And this is, in my opinion, how, like my biggest frustration with astrology is that people can get kind of swept up in these like archetypal stories of like, oh, the ambitious CEO, and they get stuck in that story, and then they make that story their life, when in all reality that was actually the warning. That was actually like the archetypal warning of like, hey, don't do this, like this is what Capricorn could become. Like just a heads up, you have the potential to manifest this much toxicity in your genes. Like don't do that. Don't be another archetypal story. Don't do that, and I think that that's so true. That's why I fucking love human design so much, because human design talks a lot about that, especially with solar beings, which is everybody except for reflectors. Like you guys are really not supposed to be like these transits are actually like a warning or a heads up of like not getting swept up in the program. That's what they call it, the program, right? But what I love about esoteric astrology is it kind of like cracks through the matrix and shows you the other side of that, the more spiritual side of that, and how you can actually transform some of these like lower vibe shadow frequencies into higher vibe gift frequencies, which is human design and the gene keys, right? And I love getting deep about that. So first of all, in esoteric astrology, we can look at the bottom of this mountain and we can decide that there's maybe two different mountains, okay? First, over here is the mountain of personality. It's like who we think we are, and what society has programmed us to believe that we are, and that is the mountain that we should climb. But then we also have this mountain over here. So wait, first of all, back up. So this mountain could look like, you know, go to college, get a good job, get married, have kids, raise those kids, make a lot of money, buy a house, go on vacation, retire, and donate money to charity, and die peacefully in my sleep someday. That could be your mountain. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That could be your mountain. But then there's this choice of this other mountain, which is more the mountain of spirit and enlightenment and consciousness. Okay. So if we decide to start at the bottom of, like, if we start at the bottom of the other mountain, you already know what that's going to look like. You know, society has told you what to do. However, I think that that's why this new moon is so important, because actually what society has programmed you to do as a mountain climber is starting to prove untrue, unsustainable, and bullshit, just bullshit, right? And so a lot of people are already halfway, 3/4 up the way that mountain, and they're like, what the fuck am I doing? None of this matters. This is all bullshit, you know? And they're like, oh, what is my purpose? You know, like if I wasn't meant to be an insurance salesman, then what the fuck was I meant to be? Or if a robot could do my blue collar job, then what the fuck am I supposed to do? And that's what we see happening right now in the world. So maybe it's time to climb down that mountain and give the other mountain a try. So let's use the spirit mountain as the metaphor of like an actual mountain. We can look at the bottom of the mountain as the easiest, right? Like it's the like, you know, the mountain gets steeper the taller that it gets. So at the bottom of the mountain, it's fairly simple, but it gets tougher as you go. And that's kind of like the also the meaning of Saturn as well, right? And so with this mountain of consciousness and spirituality, you kind of realize, especially as you start at the bottom of this mountain, you're like, I gotta be really cautious about where I place my foot next, you know, like, because woof, I climbed that mountain over there, and like I went on the wrong fucking mountain, and I like wasted all that time and effort and energy climbing this bullshit mountain. So I had to be really careful and like check myself at every step of the way of this mountain and be like, is this really where I'm wanting to go? And so with that being said, then you can kind of see how like a short step, one little step in the right direction is better than a big sloppy step in the wrong direction of the wrong mountain, right? Like you can climb that mountain fast. This mountain of spirit is probably going to be the hardest fucking mountain you ever climb. And the esoteric meaning of it is that like as you keep climbing this mountain and you get to like that plateau towards the top, You look down the mountain and you're like so proud of yourself, and you're like, man, look at how far I've come. I'm so proud of like how much I've overcome, and like look at how much meaning is in my struggle, and like all these things. But then you look up the mountain at like the peak, and you're like, even though it's the shortest distance left, like you're so close to getting to the top, it's going to be the most steep, hardest part of the entire journey, because getting to the top of the spirit mountain is the hardest thing you'll do in life. That's where the devil card comes in too, when you want to talk about hierarchies of like religion and stuff like that. That's what they do. They get to that plateau and they delude themselves that they're done, that they're at the top of the mountain. That's what you see in cults. They say, I know everything. I'm at the top of this fucking mountain. But no, they're not. They haven't even begun the hardest part of the journey yet, because the hardest part of the journey is the humbling part. You know, it's like that's when you have to like maybe you have this bag of tools that have helped you get up the mountain, like, you know, coping mechanisms and survival strategies and boundaries, like all these things that have helped you get as far as you've come. You have to like put those down. You have to put the bag down, because it's weighing you down when you're trying to make the steepest climb yet. You know, like that's when you really make like the biggest sacrifices, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That's when you really have to put your trust into spirit and go like, this is like, you really have to believe that it's worth it. You really have to put down your egoic desires. You really have to risk it all. You could fucking die. Which brings me to another point of the story of Capricorn. You could fucking die. Like, you could die. You could do everything right and take all the right steps and still only make it partly up this mountain and never reach the top, and you fucking die. That's life, you know? So like, also, when you're considering the base of this mountain, is it a mountain that you even enjoy fucking climbing? Because you might not ever make it to the top. You might die before you make it to the top. So did you at least enjoy the journey? Did you at least enjoy the steps? You know? Because that's another thing about getting on the wrong mountain, is that maybe sometimes you make it to the top of the personality mountain or the societal construct mountain, and you're like, this fucking sucked, you know? Like, I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to make those types of sacrifices. Maybe because those sacrifices aren't even really making an impact in the world. So that gets me to back to the spirit mountain of, let's say you do reach the top of the mountain, you know, like you reach divine light, you reach the highest potential of conscious enlightenment at the top of this mountain, and you're so fucking happy, you're like ecstatic, you know, like you have you're bathed in the glory of divine light. Why would you ever want to leave that? You know, like you just want to stay there and continue to bask in the greatness that is the top of this mountain. But here's the thing. If you just stay there, where's the contribution, right? And that's when we go back to that 10th house. Where's the thing that you leave behind? So as happy as you are at the top of that mountain, and you think that you're done, but you're not done, because, okay, hold on. You think that you're done, but you're not done, because you start to hear cries coming from the bottom of the mountain. And these cries symbolize suffering humanity. You know what suffering humanity is? Is a bunch of people that are lost and they don't know how to climb their own mountain. So you got to take that light that you discovered and you got to figure out a way to go back down the mountain and bring that light back down to the suffering humans. And here's the trick too, is it's like you're not bringing it down to show them how to climb back up your mountain. You're bringing it down to show them how to find their own mountain that's right for them and climb their own mountain. Because that's the difference between awakened and unawakened Capricorn as well, is that Capricorn, the CEO, is going to tell everybody what to do. It's a hierarchy, right? It's a guy at the top of the mountain ordering people down at the bottom, like, hey, support my mountain. My mountain is the most important mountain. Fuck your mountain. But enlightened Capricorn is like, I found the top of my mountain, and now I'm going to help you find the top of yours. That's my contribution to society. That's my reputation. That's my legacy that I leave behind. And when we think about Pluto at the very last degrees of Capricorn right now, how is that not any more perfect? What I just said, like, not to brag or be boastful, but like, that's fucking perfect for like what we're experiencing on the earth right now. We are doing away with, like, Pluto is destroying these hierarchical structures so that way a new way can be born. And we're going to see that coming in the years, especially with Pluto in Aquarius, because then we're going to really be doing some transformation on humanity as a whole, on more of these collaborative teamwork, work together for higher causes, more humanitarian, more innovative, more forward thinking. Because see, that's another thing, like Saturn is co-ruled by Capricorn and Aquarius. But Capricorn is more of the traditionalist, conservative side of Saturn. You know why? Because once it reaches the top of the mountain, it's like, here's all the ways that worked. Like, let's build upon what works. That's tradition, right? Tradition is like, hey, this has worked, let's keep doing it. But then Aquarius is the more rebellious side of like, because see, sometimes Capricorn can be like repeating things or making traditions out of shit that's not really working. Like, maybe it did work at one point in time, but sometimes Capricorn has those blind goggles on of like, oh, I can't see when this stopped working, when this became stagnant. They're kind of addicted to the comfort of continuing to do it over and over again. And that's when Aquarius comes in and goes, no, this isn't working anymore. This is stagnant. This tradition doesn't make any fucking sense for where we're going, where we are. Like, we need to look at the future. We need to get innovative. We need to make new plans. We need to build a new society. Like, that's where we're going to see the rebirth of society, of humanity, of these structures. Okay. Yeah. Just need a little love. Okay, fine. Baby. Starting to look like somebody. Oh, okay. So with that being said, I wanted to take us back through this mountain one more time, but this time I want to look at the gene keys. So like, maybe I will just share this as a. Okay, so I wanted to take you back through this again. So like, I just did this earlier and I got excited to share it with you guys. When we take the gene keys, so you know there is, I wonder if I can go back, yeah. So through each zodiac sign, there is gene keys, you know, there's like 5-ish gene keys for each zodiac sign that falls within it. And so when I took that for the sign of Capricorn, and we envisioned the bottom of the mountain being this gate or gene key 10, and then climbing up from there, it really started to make sense. Like, I even like sat and drew this down. drew this down. I sat and jotted this down like in a mountain, right? So like I love it because the first gene key, love of self, self-obsession. This is like when you climb the wrong or the right mountain in the first place. Like this is the base of the mountain. Like, is this mountain natural to you? Are you gonna live your own story? Or are you self-obsessed in the way of like the more spiritual we become, the more achingly serious we become. And the more we think we know, we have to admit at a certain point, however, that we know nothing, absolutely nothing. I love that. That goes into what I said about this beating yourself up thing that you do along this mountain climbing of like, you don't know shit and all of this is just absurdism, you know? But like you get to like decide what that means to you, and what that means to you is the mountain that you climb. You know, like, are you climbing this mountain of like, oh, I care so much what other people think about me. I care so much about what society thinks is success. I care so much about making my parents proud of me. I care so much about making a fuckload of money. Like, I care so much about these things because you're self-obsessed. Or are you just naturally going towards like, you know, oh, I've always really been good at drawing, and I've always really been very artsy, and maybe that's not going to make me a lot of money, but I would really like to see where this takes me. You know, I really like to see where following my actual natural to me dreams will take me in this life. You know, like how can I be at ease with who I really am and climb that mountain, climb the more authentic mountain. Then after we get past that, and by the way, that's also like we have these codon rings for everything, so that one is like the one of humanity, you know. I think it's seeing yourself as a piece of that humanity puzzle rather than climbing humanity's mountains. You're like, actually climbing my own mountain helps me climb, helps humanity climb a collective mountain. Then we get to the next one, which is the 58. And that one is dissatisfaction, vitality, bliss. It's the joy of service. So it's like once we kind of find what's natural to us, who we really are, then like how satisfied are we with what we're doing with it? You know, like maybe you're like, okay, I am naturally an artist. How satisfied am I with the things I'm creating? Does the things that I'm creating bring me vitality? Am I and also vitality is the joy of service, you know? Like if we're just serving ourselves, it doesn't feel that great. It doesn't. Like maybe it does to some people, but I think like as you keep serving yourself, eventually you're going to get sick of that, you know? Like the real goodness is like when you're serving a higher cause. Then after that, we get to the 38, which is struggle, perseverance, and honor. I love this quote in the Gene Keys, on the Gene Key site. It says the indomitable spirit of the underdog. So this is my North Node. So I really, really love this Gene Key a lot. I became real obsessed with my own struggle. And like started to really form my identity around that, about like, you know, I just struggle and overcome, and that's why I'm such a badass. And it was like my way of like seeing myself idealistically. But the older I've gotten and the more that I've done studying in this, the more that I don't want to just struggle for the sake of struggling, you know, like I love that perseverance, want to overcome and be on the other side of struggle. And I think I know that comes from picking the right things to struggle for. And that's like halfway up the mountain, you know, that's when things start to get more tough, start to become more of a struggle. And that's when you really have to sacrifice some things that are weighing you down and go, what is worth struggling for? You know, like, is it like maybe talking to some person in your life is always a fucking struggle and it's distracting you from your dreams, from your aspirations, from like it's making it hard to persevere on your mountain, you know? Like maybe someone keeps trying to get you to help them climb their mountain when you're not even fucking done climbing yours yet. Is that worth the struggle? Is that worth getting stuck where you're at on the mountain? Then the next step is the 54. I have this one a lot in my chart as well. And this one is the shadow of greed, the gift of aspiration, and the city of ascension. And another quote from the site is material and spiritual liquidity. And I love that because it's like another quote that I literally repeat to myself all the time when I'm thinking of the shadow of this one, because I've been faced with the shadow of this a lot in other people throughout my life. And that is part of what has blocked my own manifestations, is like I have been the victim of greed, and it formed this limiting belief within myself that if I were to acquire money, power, success, whatever, that I would become greedy as well, which isn't true. And again, the older I get, the more that I trust myself that if I did attain money, that I would do the right thing with it, you know, that it would be prosperous, that it would be alive and full of light. Because see, that's the thing, money isn't evil, it's what is done with money that is evil. Money is just a tool. Money's just a tool in your bag getting you up that mountain. But the mountain is what's good or evil. And good or evil is subjective. Anyway. The quote within this is that greed is just aspiration, which is the gift frequency, without trust. Let that sink in. Greed is just aspiration without trust. Greed is when you don't trust that your aspirations will come to fruition. So you cling and hold on to whatever makes you feel safe, to whatever helps you escape the fear of it not all working out, of your dreams not coming true. And when we say material and spiritual liquidity, oh my gosh, Beef, I don't know what your deal is. When we say that, we mean that we can do spiritual things with material things. You know, the mountain is a material thing made from the earth, and we can use it to climb higher to more ethereal, spiritual, other dimensional places. But we have to ground that down into reality. We have to bring that spirit back down the mountain. There's another part in esoteric astrology too that talks about how the mountain goat, when it gets to the top of the mountain, it turns into a unicorn, because one horn representing personality and one horn representing spirit merge together and become one horn, just like the one point of the mountain pointing towards the heavens, becoming this magical, mythical creature. Both and, you know, you can be realistic, practical, grounded, living and experiencing this material 3D reality, and be spiritual. spiritually ambitious, reaching enlightenment. You can do both. That's the Capricorn journey. And then I'm not going to get too much into the other two gene keys because I just wanted to show you where we're at so far. These last two, you know, when you get to the tip of the mountain, because we go from like, okay, humanity seeking, and then at the top, we get to Gaia, the pineal gland. We get to the shadow of psychosis and limitation and the gifts of inspiration and realism. And I love that 60 of limitation, realism, and justice is at the very top, because that's when we get to like the very top is when we merge into the sign of Aquarius. And that's when we can say, okay, we know what our limitations are. Aquarius can build on top of that. Like, we're realistic about what's working and what's not. So what's not working, we can pass that baton on to Aquarius and let Aquarius figure out. But what is working, we can like graft upon that. And I think that that's also the most creative part of Capricorn, is at the top of this mountain too, because it's when you start to get that practical, realistic, grounded side of Capricorn together with the more innovative and futuristic side of Aquarius, and it looks at its limitations and gets real creative about how to get around it. And that's where is right now. It's at those last degrees. It's getting realistic as fuck about its limitations, because it doesn't want to be the victim of these structures anymore, the victim of these hierarchies any fucking more. So it's getting realistic about things. And that's why we see so many truths coming out as well. I mean, also Neptune, Saturn, and Pisces, but you know, Saturn is ruled by Capricorn. So Capricorn is like, I don't want to be a victim of structures anymore, especially structures that are fucking delusional. Cults, religions, anything that has you climbing, corporations, anything that has you climbing a mountain that isn't your fucking mountain. That's what we're getting real about. And that's where this justice comes from. It's liberating, you know? That's where the rebellion of Aquarius comes from. It's liberating you from the shackles of your own devilry. What's keeping you stuck. Anyway, some other cool aspects that are happening with this new moon is that we have Venus trine Chiron. Chiron, you know, the wounded healer, it's been in that gate of shock, and it's the shadow of agitation, like what's agitating you, moving you into initiation, to awakening, right? And Venus is like in that place right now where it's like needing to be like, it's like, okay, we've been putting in the work on healing these things that are like fundamentally agitating, especially about like identity wounds, like about, again, what society tells you that you are, conditioning. That's what we've been working on healing. Now the North Node is there too, and it's like, all right, we got to see this path forward. We see the top of the mountain. We need to break this down into some practical steps. Venus is going to help us develop some patience. Like I said, a small, precise step is better than a big, sloppy one. We have to be patient with where we're at because maybe our step isn't complete yet. We have to wait for divine timing to tell us when we're ready to make that next step up the mountain. Like, what if the next step up the mountain is covered in a shitload of snow, but you're impatient, so you try to take that step, you get stuck in the snow. However, if you would have just waited a little bit, this gust of wind would have came through and blown all that snow off, and you would have been fine. You know, that's kind of the thing here. But we have a trine, so we're and I think it's because we're used to the agitation. Chiron's been there for a while. We're used to how agitating it feels, that like we can all feel that something big is about to change, but we're like, just fucking do it already. You know, like that meme, like poking like poking the government, like revolution already. It's agitating, right? It's agitating, but we're going to cultivate some patience. We're going to look at where we're at. This new moon is squaring the nodes, so that agitation is real. The south node is unease, which is showing us like anything that has gone in the way throughout the past that gets in the way of our intuition. When we don't follow our own intuition, we feel uneasy, and then we're agitated by the results of that. But like instead, we can follow our intuition. It would lead us into initiation. Our intuition shows us exactly what we need to know, when we need to know it. It shows us exactly where we're supposed to go and when we're supposed to go there. When we don't follow that, it's uneasy and agitating. It doesn't feel good. So when we think about this new moon and the intentions of these long-term goals that we're setting and looking at where we're currently at on our mountain of life, we want to have an aspiration and complete trust in divine timing. Because remember, when that trust isn't factored in, that's when we can become greedy, agitated, and uneasy. But when we have that unwavering trust and patience, we'll know what to take initiative on. And then what I really love is we also have Mars trine Jupiter, which, by the way, Venus trine Chiron is like healing like wounds of value, like how valuable our mountain feels. How much love and money and value are we cultivating on the mountain that we're climbing? Is it helping to heal or wound? Are we using money to heal or wound? Are we using our love and attention to heal or wound? But then Mars trine Jupiter is like, how aspirational are our motivations and desires? Are they limiting or are they abundant and expansive? This is like, ain't no mountain high enough. That's the kind of vibe. But it's a selfless, altruistic, expansive, and abundance. It's abundance for me and abundance for you and abundance for all. It's the you get a spiritual awakening, you get a spiritual awakening, it's the fucking Oprah of spiritual awakening. It's being done with any gatekeeping. Calling out those bullshit people at the top of the mountain. Leading the masses up a bullshit mountain. Calling that out. Having the bravery and courage to call that out. North Node in Aries. If it's agitating you, do something about it. Use the agitation to initiate you into action. Your Mars wants to feel vitality. And it's not going to feel that if it's coming from a place of selfishness. Why do you think, even when we see the archetypal story of the CEO, towards the end of their life, they get more altruistic, they get more selfless, they start to realize, oh, maybe just, trying to attain these material desires and success and money, maybe that's not all life is about. Like it didn't matter how many mountains I climbed, it wasn't ever good enough. You know why? Because they never climbed the spirit mountain, and they never brought that back down to the suffering humanity. They never helped anyone climb their own mountain. That's why. And that's why they get more altruistic towards the end of their life. Anyway, with that being said, That's all I've got for you. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful and resonates with you. If you like me and you like my messages and you are all about what I do, please consider sharing and liking and subscribing and all the things. For in honor of this new moon in Capricorn, I am going to be offering life's purpose readings where we will be going over the things in your chart that relate to your life's purpose. I think this is like an amazing fucking time for this type of reading. So if that's something that interests you, please reach out. And yeah, that's all I got for you. Thank you so fucking much. So much love to all of you. Thank you for being supportive of me on the mountain that I am climbing. And I hope that I can help you guys all find and climb your own mountain as well. Thank you.